I think this is one of those rare cases where studio meddling was actually the correct move.
Callback.
Yeah.
Callback.
And everybody ended up hating him.
All of the interiors in the office. Gorgeous.
It feels like a hopeful message rather than a realistic message.
I really liked the Miranda Nigel ending.
It was a good depiction of what's happening, not just in fashion, but around the entertainment world.
You know. All right, welcome back, everybody. We don't know exactly what number episode this is, but thank you for joining us. This was supposed to be the Odyssey, but the movie theater lost power and their website crashed, so that didn't work out. We'll be seeing the Odyssey and doing an episode on that. But today it is The Devil Wears Prada 2. And I guess the first Devil Wears Prada, considering we did a Silver Attention episode on it.
The Devil Gets Me Prada once. Shame on them. The Devil Gets Me Prada twice. Shame on me.
Indeed.
What do we think? So we just watched Devil Wears Prada 2 for the first time a couple nights ago with the intent of doing this video. And for the audience that has either watched it ahead of time or has not watched it yet, what are your thoughts on The Devil Wears Prada 2 by comparison to the original?
Not as good as the original. I definitely, I feared the worst. I thought this was going to just be total cash grab. I really did not have high expectations. And at first I thought that those low expectations were justified, given that the first 40 minutes of the film are just nothing but nonstop callbacks to the first. And you kind of get the sense that it's sort of this, in the same way that The Force Awakens is, kind of just A New Hope, it gave me the impression of being just kind of the first film repackaged. But then it took a big left turn with sort of this, I guess, realignment of allegiances, you might say. And that once that happened, I was much more with the story, because it was kind of this fake out of you think it's just going to be nostalgia bait, but then it turns out that it shuffle some of the characters around, and it was just good to see certain things. It was good to see Miranda humbled, since she never really got any sort of consequences at the end of the first film.
Well, so that was a really interesting part about the entirety of the film, is that from the start, Miranda is being humbled.
Mm-hmm.
And I thought that was actually a really interesting element of the film, especially Andy's reactions to it, because she is consistently in shock that Miranda is essentially letting herself get steamrolled from pretty much the first few scenes, almost all the way through the entire film. And it's really interesting because I agree with you. It was the beginning of the film, it was definitely, there was an unease because there was a lot of callbacks. And it was interesting because as we were sitting there watching it, I was thinking, something feels off. And I wasn't quite sure what it was. I recognized we were getting a lot of callbacks. I was recognizing that the plot was kind of following the same structure as the first. And I was like, this doesn't feel correct. And after completing the film, I realized not only was I correct with that, but it's also because it was intentional.
Yeah.
Because they were lulling us into a false sense of security of, oh, this is just, you've seen this before. We're just going to have fun. We're going to have fun, and we're going to do the same thing over again. And it's by the 30-ish minute mark, you're like, okay, so are we just, how's this going to work? Is Andy just kind of completely going back on where she came from? Her whole, character arc from the first one and the 20 years between. And then the story takes a hard right turn.
Yeah.
And we're like, oh, okay, we're not doing that. You wanted me to believe that because you wanted the way this goes to feel a little bit more dramatic. And I did appreciate that. But I find it interesting, and I'd love to dig through the parallels of the journeys of the two main characters of Andy and Miranda in the first film and the second film. Because obviously in the first film, it's a coming-of-age story for Andy. And by the end of the film, she's not quite on equal footing with Miranda, but they have a mutual respect.
Right. Well, and she has this level of confidence that she's gained from the whole experience.
Yes.
That, at the beginning she doesn't really want to be there, and she definitely internalizes that she doesn't feel like she belongs there.
Mm-hmm.
And then by the end, she's very comfortable in her own skin. She's comfortable in high fashion. And even though she doesn't work at Runway, she's like you can tell she has grown a lot from that experience and is taking that into her journalistic career.
Yes, and at the start of this film, we see that she has kind of followed that through line for the last 2 decades and refined that. And then we get back into the offices of Runway, and we see her kind of start to fall back into old habits a little bit, primarily because Miranda clearly has not changed at all. And then, very quickly, she starts to, despite having fallen back into old habits, kind of like the audience, starts to feel this weird sense of unease because it's like, well, this feels really familiar, but there's also something different. Miranda's not acting normal.
Mm-hmm.
She's still as vitriolic as ever, but she's kind of holding back, and she's also having to appease other people, far more so than we saw in the first one. And Andy doesn't really know what to do with that, because now she isn't her assistant, she is a coworker. Granted, she is technically still a subordinate, but she's at a much higher level. She has a much higher, level of respect. Also, she has the backing of the chairman of the board, so Miranda can't really fight back with her too much. So it's a weird dynamic there, a fun one, I might add. But it's interesting because now she has that extra confidence despite having the minor PTSD of having been there before.
Yeah. Anne Hathaway does an incredible just switch when, because she goes into Miranda's office like, hey, remember me? I'm your features editor now. Like, tries to kind of have that like coworker approach. And Miranda shuts her down, and Anne Hathaway just like makes a decision to just like snap back into oh my god, Miranda,
yeah,
and just turns the timidity like right back on.
But it's so interesting to see that go through cycles in those first 30 minutes.
Yeah,
because you get the timidity, but then you get things for Andy that don't compute, and so the her that has been her for the last 20 years starts to pop out. She's like, hang on a second, you're telling me that the devil now has to bend the knee to advertisers, and everybody's like, this is how it's always been, it's just worse now. And it's like, I did like that commentary. Like, I really enjoyed the commentary of the situation that media is going through now, where when I think it was Nigel was discussing the budgets I used to have for, a 3-month shoot in, Africa, I'm now lucky if I get 2 days.
Yeah.
And it immediately made me think of television, actually, because a lot of network television back in the day, they would get like 3 to 4 for the primetime, drama shows, like the procedurals and whatnot. They'd get like 3 and 4 million back in like 2005 for 22 episodes. So that's what? That's 60 to 80 million a season.
Yeah.
For that many episodes, and now the budgets are maybe comparable, somewhat less per episode for 10 episodes, and it's an interesting dichotomy because now they really like everybody's budgets are tighter. Inflation has hit, but prices of things have only gone up as a result, and wages have also gone up. But the money that they're getting to do the projects has either stayed the same or gone down. So the dollar per mile on a production has drastically decreased. So everybody's feeling the squeeze, and I think it's really interesting because it was a good depiction of what's happening, not just in fashion, but around the entertainment world. And I think the whole arguments about journalism and how it is still valuable, but a lot of it's horrible, and a lot of it's horrible because people are being pressured for it to be horrible because they don't have the money to be able to do the things that they used to, so they have to appease to what they think people are going to read and get eyes on in order to get money from advertisers.
That was one of my favorite moments when Andy's like really doing all these really like great pieces and is like feels really good about like I'm contributing this like real journalism to this magazine, and Miranda's like, yeah, but no one read it. And what's the she like turns to Nigel and she's like how are the numbers looking on that piece? And Stanley Tucci says,
Yeah, that's great.
And it does mirror, like, again, it's all mediums, right? It mirrors the stuff that we have to deal with, where we're like, oh, we are really interested in this topic. Let's make a video on it. That doesn't mean that, that's what is gonna. If people don't look at it or YouTube doesn't show it to people, tough.
Yeah, I mean, if a tree falls and there's no one there to advertise on front of it, wasn't really a good return on shareholder value. So, unfortunately, that's the world we live in.
Yeah.
But it's interesting. I thought it was good commentary. I thought the journalism element was a good commentary. I do think also, by the way, spoilers. If you were not previously aware of that or anticipating that, we are going to get into spoilers here.
I love the idea of somebody that has not seen the film has committed for the length of this episode to watching a full discussion of the film.
Yeah.
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 You did this to yourself if you get spoiled.
Yeah. But that being said, so it is interesting how the payoff of the film and of Andy being the features editor and being there and doing those stories is that it is those stories that saves Elias Clark in the end. And it's an interesting commentary where essentially what the moral is that if you do good work, you will be rewarded. And essentially it also boils down to appeasing to the masses is short-term gains. The people that you really want to appease to are the ones who are going to read the heady, the truthful, the meaningful stories.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know how much that is applicable to today's world. I hope it is.
Yeah.
It feels like, and I have no problem with this, but it feels like a hopeful message rather than a realistic message.
Yeah.
But I think that is the type of message that we should be hearing and should be seeing.
Well, it definitely is right for the sequel to The Devil Wears Prada that did end on... It does end on a hopeful note, but it also ends on a note of, like, nobody's bad behavior is really corrected at all at the end of the film. Like, it's a very much like the wheels of fashion and publishing keep turning, and trying to bring conscience into it doesn't really have an effect.
I did like that, though, because that was very indicative of what the fashion world was like at the time.
Absolutely. But I think that was the perfect ending for that movie. But I also think that, like, I think it's a good full circle thing to have the complimentary ending at the end of the sequel.
I agree. Yeah, so that's another thing. So what did you think about the ending in terms of Miranda and Andy gaining respect for each other but going separate ways? Whereas with this one, it's they gain respect for each other, and now they are essentially a team.
Yeah, I mean, it's kind of like Saccharine, like, oh, it's these two, like, very powerful, iconic characters that are, like, we're buddies at the end.
Personally, I'm not going to lie, I want this to be a trilogy. I think there's a third film here.
Really?
100%.
I'd be curious to hear what you think the direction would be. But yeah, it was fine. It was nice. It was
I think the third film would be Miranda is finally getting ready to leave Runway.
Oh, I see. I think you have to kill Miranda.
I don't think it would be necessarily need to be kill. I think it would need to be maybe ill.
Yeah, like she gets diagnosed with something and she's like, whoa, well, I'm faced with my mortality now. I'm not going to run Runway forever. And then she has to, like, grapple with the implications of she might need to turn the magazine over to someone, which is something she really does not want to do.
A little bit of your idea. I like the idea of her having, like, Alzheimer's or something, like, later on. Mm-hmm. And it gets to a point where she's refusing to leave, but maybe at, like, the midpoint, like probably like the second act reversal, she has a moment like she did in the first one with Andy, where she lets her guard down and they have a conversation where she not realizes, but she admits, like, I can't do this anymore.
Yeah.
And the film is essentially all about, the beginning of the film is, how are we going to force her out?
Yeah.
How are we going to save Runway from her, despite the fact that she is Runway? And then you get that, either midpoint or, like, end of second act reversal where we are clued in that though she has seemed out of it, she is aware. And she knows that she needs to let go of the reins. But because she's such a powerhouse, she's incapable of doing it.
Yeah.
And something happens where she finally realizes that if she doesn't, it's going to hurt Runway. And that's the only thing she cares about. Mm-hmm. So she then goes through a process of trying to find her replacement,
Yeah, and I think
which
you can
inevitably ends up being Andy, of course. But we are led to believe for the entirety of the film that it's not Andy.
Yeah, it could be interesting. There are a couple interesting things you could throw in as like B and C plots. Like you could have like maybe some tension with her and Nigel, that like she and Nigel both kind of want to be the one to inherit it. You could have like the specter of like tech trying to buy Elias Clark, in the same way that Amazon bought Washington Post, and that's just a thing that happens a lot now. Like, and so there's like they're trying to save Runway, but if they like let fictional Amazon know that she has Alzheimer's, like that's gonna affect the business dealings. I think that'd be cool. I'd watch that.
Yeah. Because because now it's privately owned as a result at the end of this movie by Lucy Liu's character. I can't remember her character's name.
Sasha Barnes.
Yeah. So it's owned by her, so that would be less of a concern. What would essentially have to happen is Runway is decreasing in value, and the concern is that they have to go public.
Yeah.
And I think, again, that would be really interesting. And I can imagine the ending of the third film where Andy is sitting in what was Miranda's office, but she's kept some elements to remind her of whose it was prior, but she's made it her own.
Yeah.
And now she has the assistants, and she is running everything. She gets the book, but maybe she updates it a bit. It's on an iPad instead of a hard copy, or maybe she keeps the hard copy as a token of heritage.
Right.
And I love the idea that we go from the first film, which is respect but separate. Second film is respect but equal, or respect but team.
Yeah.
And then third would essentially be respect but replace.
Yeah.
And I think that would just be a really fun.
Yeah, you've sold me. I do like this idea. Yeah, but as far as the ending goes, like the Andy Miranda ending was okay. That was fine. I really liked the Miranda Nigel ending.
Yeah, I'm glad that happened.
Because that was like one of my biggest, when we watched the first film together, I was like, what the hell? Like they just kind of like leave him to get screwed, and there's no reversal of it. There's no like follow up on it. He just kind of is resigned to his champagne or whatever he's drinking at the table.
I do like that, because that again, that's just such an epitome of both the fashion world and the entertainment world as a whole.
Yeah.
Where you could be loyal to someone for decades, but that doesn't mean that they're going to make the right decision. I don't think that's good. I think you should reward people who are loyal to you, but at the same time, there are people in this world, especially those in power, who don't do that. And I think it's a good reminder that, like, oh yeah, that's how they operate.
Yeah, it definitely fit in with the themes of the first one. But I'm still, it was one of the things I was really hoping this film would do, is like kind of redeem that a little bit. And we saw Miranda actually realize, like, oh, I kind of do need him. Like, I would not have been able to do this without Nigel.
Yeah. Also, Fox, by the way, please re-release this in 4K, because the only thing that or at least a Blu-ray, because the best I could find was DVDs of the original Devil Wears Prada, and considering how popular the film is or was, I'm shocked that you guys didn't do some level of re-release in, like, at least, full HD.
If for no other reason than just promote the sequel. Just be
Yeah.
like, hey, I would have done it like 2 or 3 months in advance. Be like, hey, you're anticipating this film.
Let me double check.
Buy the first one on.
'Cause I could not find even a Blu-ray of The Devil Wears Prada.
That's insane.
Well, there is one now. There's a regular Blu-ray. And the new one has... Oh, no, wait, hang on. Okay, yeah, there is a normal Blu-ray now. I can't remember. Did they do DI? Did they do... I'm sure they did a digital intermediate, because that was in the mid-2000s, so everybody was doing that. But if they reprinted... If the original negative exists anywhere...
It has to. There's no way they just, like, discard... I would think. I would hope that's not something they're just like...
I would hope.
We don't need this fucking thing
I would
anymore.
hope. Also, so in terms of endings, so... Miranda's and Andy's, we've got Nigel. He's actually, given some credentials in this one. He's given his dues, at least beginning to.
Yeah.
What do we think about Andy's love story in this one?
I think unnecessary. Like her boyfriend served the purpose in the first film of being the avatar of like the world that she's being pulled away from.
Mm-hmm.
And he kind of had this role of like their romance was not really a factor in terms of the themes or what the film was trying to communicate. It was just like, this is like what she is, has to contemplate leaving behind if she wants to come into her own in this and fully dive into this world.
Mm-hmm.
So he served a purpose. It added something for her to not just be a single person in New York in the first film. This one, I was like, I don't know why it's endearing to have a love story. And he's an endearing character. But it just seemed like I don't think it added necessarily anything.
So I will counter with one idea, specifically emanating from one particular scene where she's kind of having a moment and he tries to relate to her and she shuts him down.
Yeah.
And, even Kat, who we were watching with, was like, yeah, she's kind of being an asshole.
Yeah.
Which I think was intentional. And I think the reason that we had this relationship in it was because I think it served the opposite purpose that the original love interest did.
Okay.
The original love interest, I agree with you, showed her removing herself from the world that she started in into something else. Not quite Runway's world, but Runway pulled her into essentially a higher cruising altitude than where she was.
Mm-hmm.
And that led her to the career that she had for those 20 years between her stints at Runway. And I think this relationship depicted what the cost of that was. Because as a result of that career, she didn't have a family. It comes up with Emily when they have the conversation, where Emily, granted she's divorced, but she had 2 kids, and she clearly loves her kids. But even in the moment where she's in the hotel, and I think they were in Milan, and she's telling the ex-husband to parent, and he hangs up on her because he's like, I'm the one here.
Yeah, that was
Enjoy
a great
Italy.
scene.
Yeah, it was great. And you see kind of like the heartbreak on her face because she knows. She knows that was a reasonable reaction.
Yeah.
Because she isn't there. And that's the price of her career. Same thing with Andy, where that has been the price of her career, is not having a relationship. Now, granted, we kind of get the information from the character that that really wasn't a priority for her, which is fine. I mean, everybody has different priorities. But I think this relationship existing in the story serves to show, though it hasn't been a priority, it's not entirely unwanted. And I think this is part of her growth in this film, realizing that despite enjoying her career, despite making the most of her career, there are other elements of her life that she is unfulfilled, that she does have the capacity to explore. And I like that. I like the fact that the first film leaves romance in the dust with essentially 2 guys that she doesn't trust. She stays away from it for the most part. She's had other relationships between there, but they're very quickly glossed over. We're led to believe that this is the first real attempt at romance she's made in quite a long time. And I like the idea that despite going back to Runway, going back to essentially the scene of the crime, which made her a little bit more closed off, a little bit more professional, and a little bit more hyper-focused on her career, even with doing that, she is also able to grow in an emotional way outside of work. And I thought that was fun.
Yeah, you make a good point. I think I even think that would be a cool thing to going back to if there was a third film, double down on and essentially keep him. I like it. Patrick Trammell, I think is the name of the actor. Keep him, and then as she's preparing herself to potentially come into the Miranda role, realizing that Miranda did not have a well-rounded life, as we've seen in the last 2 films, and that was not good. Mm-hmm. And her and she obviously she wouldn't start off being successful at this, but hopefully by the end of the 3rd film, she's kind of figured out how to be the Runway editor-in-chief, while also be like...
If I was going to write it, which I'm not claiming that I would, because the writer and director of these 2 films so far, Brock McKenna and Dave Frankel, do a great job.
Yeah.
But assuming we're talking on Spec, which is this, that's actually a idea I have for a different channel, but that's besides the point. The way I would show that is in that final office scene on the side of the room where they did the 2 blue
The
belts.
cerulean scene,
Yes.
yeah.
She's got like a playpen for her kid.
Yeah.
And her kid's maybe like 3.
Yeah.
And maybe the kid's like playing with like one of the belts or like, like a couple pieces.
That would
of
be
stuff
cool.
Like that.
Another way to approach it is if the kid's a little bit older, like she's looking through the book on the iPad and the kid like looks over her shoulder and she like puts her arm and listens, like inviting the kid into her world a little bit. But yeah, like that, like her trying to like have a better balance than Miranda had could be an interesting subplot of that. No, you make a good point with the new guy though. I didn't.
But it would be a good point of contention in a third film for them to have started a family.
Mm-hmm.
And now with the prospect of her taking Miranda's job when she's already stretched to the gills, him to be like, are you really going to leave us even more than what you did? And like maybe as she starts to essentially try out for the role, she is getting stretched too thin. And then she has that realization of, I don't need to do it this way.
Yeah.
Just because Miranda did it this way doesn't mean it's the only way that this can get done. And she kind of, like she did in the first film, where realizing just because other assistants did it this way doesn't mean that I have to. And she discovers little loopholes and ways that she can make things work better.
It's just such a good arc of her spending like the first half trying to be Miranda.
Yeah.
And then realize like, oh, Miranda isn't the be all end all.
Yes.
She had flaws.
Yes.
She isn't this like superhuman that everybody makes like imagines her to be. This is great. We got it. We have a movie. No.
Dave, let me know.
What did you think of the like the note that the romance in the first film was left on?
I loved it.
Really?
I think the executive producers were correct with being adamant about leaving it vague.
Mm-hmm.
Because it was them who pushed Ross McKenna to be more vague about the ending. And I think they were right. I think this is one of those rare cases where studio meddling was actually the correct move. Because leaving it open-ended allowed for the possibility for the audience to impose upon that ending what they wanted to believe. Especially considering that the original goal was to have them actually fully reconcile.
Yeah, that would have been bad.
And everybody ended up hating him. And that is an interesting situation, in my opinion, because he is being a bit of a whiny baby throughout the film.
Sure.
But it's not about things that are necessarily unreasonable.
Right.
They are unreasonable because we are led to believe that she wants a one-and-done year there. So the idea is that if you can't last a year with this, you don't belong together.
Yeah.
His concerns would have been much more founded if there was a single scene in which Andy was throwing out the possibility of staying at Runway after the year was up.
Yeah.
And continuing her
like this
career.
is who I am now. I'm hard pivoting. I'm not going to do like hard hitting journalism on behalf of the common man or whatever her goal is.
Now that it was subtly suggested by the way she changed her clothes, by the way she changed how she was behaving, but there was never an explicit confirmation that those changes were not just to fit in better for that year, that they were a trajectory that would be maintained. Mm-hmm. There was always that insistence that after a year I'm done. But if we had that even non-confirmation, even if he questioned her about saying like, yeah, but like, once you're done, like even in a casual way, it was like, hey, like, next year, once you're done with Runway, I was thinking that we could like go away to like Maine for a week or whatever and have her hesitate.
I'd be like,
Yeah, she's like, oh, well, I mean, and just like have the implication that 1 year done at Runway is no longer certain.
Yeah, that would have been great.
That would have made his concerns and his immaturity feel a bit more mature and legitimate, in my opinion. Because at that point, he's no longer upset about a year that was agreed to. That is lame. At that point, he is then concerned for both of their entire futures, which is, I signed up for something. I understand that you have to do this. But if this is going to be it forever.
Mm-hmm. Well, not just their futures, but also just if she is kind of changing as a person. Like, he doesn't necessarily he is not compatible with the new version of her.
Yes.
And so him having to him showing him realize, like, oh, this might be just who she is supposed to be, and I don't really fit into that, and kind of have him realize that and be a little more contemplative and less of just like, I'm mad that your world doesn't revolve around me anymore.
Yeah.
Them getting like fully back together at the ending would have been bad. I actually think they should have just not had her revisit him at all. Because I think that I would have liked to have seen there a little bit more of like lasting consequence. I think she kind of like, with there being the door open to them reconciling, there's a little bit of like have her cake and eat it too, where she like got to change in all these ways and like leave her old life fully behind, go to Paris, and even though she leaves Runway, she still has had those evolutions. You don't see her dressing like her old self again. It doesn't totally get she doesn't get totally reset at the end just because she left Runway. And so, but then she also is able to like have the guy that she became no longer compatible with. Like, I just think that like,
I think it's okay because it was so non-definitive. Like, they did not get back together at the end,
right.
And I do like that. It was essentially, it was her maturing as well. It was her recognizing he was being kind of a child, but I gave him reason to. He may have been a little bit overdramatic about it,
right?
But I'm not totally blameless here. And kind of like her giving all of the stuff to Emily at the end of the first one, it's her kind of taking responsibility for her actions, making amends, and moving forward.
Yeah,
so I do appreciate like that element of the coming of age story. It's kind of that final cap on adulthood where it's like, right, one of the most important things about being an adult is recognizing the impact that you have on the world, taking responsibility for it, taking the action that is required of that responsibility for it, and then moving forward, whatever the outcome is.
Yeah, and I do like, he does a good job of, I'm blanking on the actor's name, but he does a good job of like, when he sits down, he's like, he has this posture of, I don't have time for this. Like, I think he says like, I've got 20 minutes or whatever. And then like, as she kind of does what you're describing of taking responsibility and like extending the olive branch, he softens.
Yeah.
And he just does a good job of playing that like, okay, I appreciate you recognize, even though we're not like getting back together, you recognize that you kind of pushed me away, and yeah.
Yeah. I also really love the music in this film. I thought it was fun. It's one of the many elements where I can't remember what the promotional thing was that Streep did where she said, and this time we got the money, because
I have a hilarious detail to juxtapose with her saying that, by the way.
Why did they have like a shoestring budget?
They had a budget that was almost triple what the first film had, but David Frankel said that because most of it went to actors' salaries, the actual funds he had available to him to shoot the film were about the same as the first film.
That's hilarious.
Streep, Hathaway, and Emily Blunt all got $12.5 million up front plus back end.
That's incredible. I mean, yeah, they are such powerhouses now that like they can demand that, but
that eats up like a third.
Yeah, that's a third of the
over
budget.
A third of the $100 million budget,
which is hilarious.
No, it's just funny that Meryl Streep is like, "Oh yeah, we got the money this time." Like, you got the money this time.
Yeah. But it is funny though, because despite that, because in the first one, as they talked about in the bonus features and whatnot, nobody wanted to be a part of it. Nobody wanted to touch it because they didn't want to piss off Anna Wintour. Yeah. And it's funny because in this one, there are so many faces.
Right.
There are so many cameos. There are so many actors like that. You wouldn't have expected, and that you didn't see from the first
that
one.
Movie did draw so many people into fashion. Like,
oh yeah, I think it made the fashion world like actually accessible.
Well, it's like I put in the description of the video on it. It's kind of like how Top Gun made every guy between the ages of like 10 and 18 suddenly decide they wanted to be a pilot.
Yep.
Devil Wears Prada made a lot of, just girls generally, really into fashion for the first time and like awoke that interest in people.
I do have to wonder if there are at fashion schools and like some of the fashion companies people who either are like watching the movie or use the soundtrack from it, because I found it really entertaining when a buddy of mine graduated from flight school for the Marines, which is a joint Marine Navy flight school.
Yeah.
We went down for his graduation, and the bar on base has a bell in it, like in Top Gun. And the bar off base, I think in the bar on base and the bar we went to off base, were both playing Top Gun soundtracks at different points in the night. And like, you know, like they were in their flight suits at one point, and then they were also in for the graduation ceremony, they were in their dress uniforms, and it was just like, it was so funny because I remember turning to my buddy who graduated, and it was like, I'm not gonna lie, I figured you guys would want to like steer clear from that, or at least like the base would. And he was like, no, we love it. I'm like,
I could totally see myself if I was in fashion school, like playing when I'm getting ready in the morning. Suddenly I see, amped up to go to class in the morning.
Yeah, I did like that they started with the same shot.
Yeah.
And some of that, like some of the nods I really enjoyed, like the guy in, I think it was Central Park, who was holding up the two cerulean belts, or the two turquoise belts, whatever it was, because the sweater was cerulean. And he looked like it, upon starting to rewatch it the other day on my ultra wide at my desk, I do not believe it was the same actor as the guy who played the designer from the first one,
right?
Who got everything wrong and had to redo everything, but he looked very similar to him.
Yeah.
Which I wonder if that was also intended as a nod.
It may, but like that's the thing, is they weren't like bad callbacks. Like when she first walks in the office and Nigel like kind of like tongue in cheek calls her six again.
Yeah,
like that's cute. It just was like there were so many of them back to back to like. Yeah. If you had just done like a third as many and spaced them out over that time, I would have had fun.
Yeah.
But it was just like every scene for the first act was just callback.
What did you think of the reveal near the end of the film?
Remind me, you're talking about the reveal that, spoilers, that Emily's working against them?
No, the reveal that came after that, which is the reveal that it was not a coincidence that Irv saw Andy's speech.
Oh, yeah. Okay, that one.
Whatchamacallit, Nigel was behind it all.
Right, yeah. That was cool. I just love Nigel.
Oh,
he's my
great.
favorite character far and away in these films.
Yep.
And I love the idea that he was like, I like the idea that he's kind of like kept tabs on her.
Yeah.
Because he so many assistants come and go in that world, in every world. I mean, in the film, same thing happens. But the idea that like he was such like a fan of her that he was like, all right, she's gonna do great stuff.
Yeah.
And then it like occurs to him at a certain point, like, oh, we need her, and like let's get her back because she's the one we need.
Yeah.
That's just so cool.
Yeah. Agreed. I wonder if, just as a sidebar, because we had a good conversation about it a few minutes ago, do you think on the main channel for Silver Retention we could do On Spec as its own kind of standalone series that goes along with the movie breakdowns?
Ooh.
Because like there are story ideas that I have that we will not have the budget for at least 20 years.
Or relies on IP that we will never get access to.
Yes, like for example, prime example for that would be Cascade, which is the sequel that I want made to Dante's Peak.
Yeah.
And I would so much rather that get made by someone in 2 years than try and assume that I will ever be in that position before the important cast of main characters unfortunately passes because time has gone on. Yeah. Same thing with Prada 3. I would so much rather Frankel and Brosh McKenna get together and do that 5 years from now than assume I'm going to do it.
Yeah, that's a good point.
So, like, I would rather put the idea out and then maybe someone finds it, thinks it's decent, and says, let's rip this guy off.
That could be fun. What format were you thinking? Like, more of, like, casual format? Were you thinking that you'd do it scripted?
Scripted presentation style, and then ideally maybe using, like, different screen grabs from different films of the actors that we're, thinking about, and then, like, dropping the background, putting them in new backgrounds, stuff like that. Doing kind of like a, let's call it a, what's his name? Who's the do it like a Ken Burns style kind of thing.
Yeah.
Where instead of having to get like an animator to do it, we'll just like kind of do essentially storyboards.
Yeah, this is really fun. There's a guy who does, I forget his name. There's a guy who does this just with Marvel. Like he'll just be like, he'll deliver it as if he's pitching it to Kevin Feige in the boardroom.
Yeah.
And he'll be like, all right, Shang-Chi was great or whatever. I'm so glad you invited me here to pitch my, script for Shang-Chi 2 or whatever. And then he'll do that, but then he'll have, like, when he's reading the lines that he's written for Simu Liu, he'll just have screen grabs of him in something.
Yeah.
Or if he's in another movie that has a similar location to what he's pitching.
Yeah.
It's a cool format.
Yeah.
Yeah, if we've got the time. And it's not too different that it posed an issue for the advertisers thing that we ran into on Lore Lodge.
Yeah, it honestly should be even easier.
Right, because it's just like, it's the same kind of like video essay. It's just about a different.
Yeah, we would also be using less clips from films than what we now do with Silver Retention. So,
right, no, I'm not so worried about copyright, just the fact that when we were doing the lives and the video essays on Lore Lodge, we ran into the issue with the advertisers, YouTube having a hard time selling ads when you have multiple formats on the same channel.
Oh, yeah.
But we shouldn't have that with Silver Attention, given that it's still a video essay.
Still a video essay about movies.
It's just a different topic, and we just put a little on spec thing.
Yeah, I would literally, what would separate the movie or the videos would be, the normal videos, and then these videos would literally be on spec : Devil Wears Prada 3 or on spec : Cascade.
We just throw that up under in the Silver Attention title with the film rolling through the gate.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, and also just like as the title of the video itself. So,
right,
yeah.
That
I don't know. Fun. Yeah, I think it could be interesting. It's a good excuse to get better at working on treatments and pitching.
I can pitch my 7 sequel 8.
Is that a real thing? Do you have that?
There was that was something that I think was floated at one time, doing 8 where the G is an 8, and they oh my god, I just remembered. Okay, so this is what 8 was gonna be, or what it became. Hang on, I have a actually good idea for this, what this film could be, but the project evolved once it became no longer a sequel.
Okay.
2-7. Okay. In 2002, New Line Cinema proposed a sequel named 8, with a digit 8 for the G, that would be based on a repurposed spec script titled Solace by Ted Griffin. This is a thing that happened all over the 2000s, where they would get a spec script and great, okay, make it a sequel to this. Like that Mila Kunis crappy sequel to American Psycho was not written as a sequel to American Psycho.
Didn't even know this existed.
Yeah, they basically just, some script got given to them, and they were like, this would make a great American Psycho sequel. Let's slap American Psycho on it.
Sometimes that can work with, like, 10 Cloverfield Lane. I thought that was a fun way to do that.
Oh, I haven't seen it. Was that also similar, like a shadow sequel to...
Well, so that's the thing, is so it was a standalone film.
Right.
And they looked at it, and the production company, I can't remember who it was, it might have been New Line, they looked at it and they were like, this is a really good story. No one's going to go watch it.
Yeah.
Can we attach an IP that is going to make people go see it? And they were like, well, Cloverfield did really well.
Oh, okay,
and so they did a few rewrites, and especially at the ending, and they made it a Cloverfield sequel. And in my opinion, it worked. In my opinion, that was a really smart idea because it was a really cool story. It was a really cool concept, and it absolutely got more eyes than it would have if it was not a Cloverfield sequel.
That's fair. They did that with Pirates of the Caribbean On Stranger Tides, I believe, as well. I think On Stranger Tides might be a novel.
Oh, interesting. Okay.
That is not... I'm going to fact check myself on that, but that was... I believe that was a kind of a similar situation where it's like, Disney's like, well, we could greenlight a pirate movie that nobody's going to watch, or we could fold it into our already massively successful.
That is funny to me because I just got the 4K box set for Pirates of the Caribbean.
Yes,
with the
which
idea
we
to
learned
potentially do something for silver retention for at some point.
And I learned that the title of the 5th film is different in Europe.
Yeah.
It is Salazar's Revenge instead of Dead Men Tell No Tales.
Yeah. And the thing that I find interesting is that I now have the box set.
Yeah.
I still have never seen the 4th or 5th movie.
The 4th one was for a while the most expensive film ever made.
Really?
You don't really see it.
Okay.
You don't really see the money in the film.
I assume it also has to do with actors.
I would think a lot of it has to do with the fact that by this point they need to pay Johnny Depp so much money. But I don't think the I don't love the 4th one. I don't think it's particularly like compelling. It's kind of a side. It's like Johnny Depp. It's like Jack Sparrow just doing a side quest kind of. The 5th one I do like. You can tell it's kind of a lower production value than the 4th.
Okay.
But it's like a good coda to like the trilogy and the story of Will and Elizabeth.
Are they back in the 5th one?
Yeah, so the 5th one, the premise of the 5th one basically is Will and Elizabeth's son. He basically like becomes a like aficionado of like the lore and mythology of the Seven Seas because he's trying to figure out a way to break the curse. That means Will can only show up every 10 years.
Yeah.
And so he basically is like, all right, I need to find Jack Sparrow. Like I have this idea of this folklore and how I can use it.
I like this.
But he's like, okay, I need to find Jack Sparrow and he can help me.
Yeah.
Accomplish this. And at the same time, you have Javier Bardem playing another like undead pirate that Sparrow killed basically.
Okay.
And they're like, and it's fun. Like Barbossa comes back. The 2 redcoats.
Oh yeah.
Are back.
Nice.
It's like not as good as the first 3, but it's like it's a fun like.
I gotta see
if you're gonna do it, bring everybody back.
The first 3 are such a phenomenal trilogy.
Yeah.
Like again, talking about trilogies that talking about things people do not give proper credit for nowadays, along with Alicia Keys. That trilogy really is phenomenal.
Yeah, I mean, the last time I rewatched them, I was just in awe of like in the opening, the first fade in of Dead Man's chest, just the close up on the teacups with the rain falling through them. I was like, how is a Disney pirate movie? How does this have such a cinematic opening?
Who directed them? Also, I think they were Bruckheimer, weren't they?
Produced by Bruckheimer, absolutely. Gore Verbinski did the first 3.
Okay.
I don't remember who did On Stranger Tides, and it's the 5th one had 2. It was Joachim Running, and someone else.
What else has Verbinski done?
Rango, the random Lone Ranger remake.
Yeah.
There was. So On Stranger Tides was a 1987 novel by Tim Powers and was loosely adapted for Pirates of the Caribbean on Stranger Tides.
I find this entertaining because the only Gore Verbinski films I have seen are the Pirates of the Caribbean films.
Didn't he just have a new one recently?
I gotta say, also,
kind of went under the radar.
People who do not get enough credit. Jerry Bruckheimer.
Yeah.
The man knows entertainment.
Yeah.
Everything he did turned to gold. And you can disagree with me because you want to be a cinema purist. And I understand that. I understand the appeal of cinema as an art form in its purest manner. I love some of those films. Some of those are my favorite films. But you also cannot sit there and tell me that Con Air is not a perfect film.
Yeah, I mean, that's the thing. Like,
it is
Bruckheimer
purely executed.
Has been such a master of like taking stuff that under any other producer would be just kind of like blockbustery, nonsense, and actually like ensuring that it does have some creative like weight to it. Like he did, he produced The Rock, did he not?
I don't know. I haven't seen it. What is The Rock?
Sean Connery and Nicolas Cage.
Oh, he did Top Gun.
Directed by...
like, here's the thing. The Rock.
Yes.
Yes. Okay. Yeah. I thought you said The Rock.
Oh no. But yeah, so he produced that, right? So he takes Michael Bay, who is not the most artistically estimable director out there, and draws like his masterpiece out of him.
Yes.
National Treasure could have been bullshit.
Yep.
And it's actually like one of the more like compelling, like of all of that type of movie at that time, very thematically compelling and very sincere. Top Gun's similar, like where is it, is it winning the Palme d'Or? No, but it's a lot better of a film than it could have been. So I think that's one of Bruckheimer's talents is.
Well, and another one that sticks out for me that, and I think he did the Bad Boys movies as well, but the one that really sticks out to me as like purity of Bruckheimer, that's not a big IP, is a movie called Deja Vu.
I haven't seen it.
Oh, it's with Denzel Washington.
Okay.
And it's such a fun movie. It has emotional weight. Imagine The Fugitive.
Okay.
And Source Code.
Okay.
I think it's Source Code. Is that the one where he's on the train? Is that the Gyllenhaal one where he's on the train?
Oh, I think so. I haven't seen that one either.
Yes, that's it.
Yeah, okay.
So it's
The Fugitive and Source Code.
It's The Fugitive and Source Code meet.
Incredible.
And it's Denzel Washington. And he is trying to uncover a terrorist attack in New Orleans that blows up a ferry.
You've sold me.
Right? It's phenomenal.
I'm mad I didn't come up with that.
Yeah. And that's the thing. It's like it's such a ridiculous premise.
Yeah.
But it's fun. Yeah, it's a ferry blows up at the very beginning of the film. And Denzel is, I think it's like the one time the ATF actually gets like a lead role. And he's like an ATF agent and he's investigating what the source of the bomb was and things like that. I just remembered the antagonist of the film is Jim Caviezel.
You're shitting me.
I'm not.
Incredible.
And it's just like,
oh my God.
It's just such a random cast. And
I need to see this film.
And so the movie goes on and Denzel starts to realize like something weird is happening here. Yeah. And he goes to the like weird government facility or that's like in a tent. Like it's a sprung up, like it's, like in a FEMA disaster zone essentially. And they've put this thing together and it's really cool. And like spoilers here for Deja Vu in this Devil Wears Prada video.
Where I'm about to read the plot of the canned 7 sequel.
So he discovers that this team has built a machine that allows them to, in real time, see into the past exactly 3 days ago. I think it's 3 days. And it's just like, with the whole quantum tunneling that they had to do to be able to make it work, it is only real time. Like, within the positioning that they have, it's like, it's only real time. They can't go forward or backward from that moment. Yeah. So you have to time it perfectly for what you want to look for, where you are. So you still have to do the investigation in order to get to the right spot to see what you need to see.
Okay.
And then you can, whatever. And then Denzel immediately is like, is it just C? And everyone shuts up. And he's like, why did she react to my voice? And they're like, she didn't. Like, there was a coincidence or whatever. And he's like, are we looking at a video of 3 days ago, or is that actually 3 days ago?
Wow.
And it's this whole thing where, like, he discovers not only is it, again, spoilers, not only can you see, he actually is capable of going back in time. The fun part. Mega spoilers. Don't watch this if you want to watch the film, because it's really cool. He goes back in time to save this one girl, and it's a little creepy because, like, it's kind of stalkerish, but like at the same time, you can try and look at it as sweet, for love at first sight or whatever. So he goes back in time to save this one girl, along with saving people from the ferry and whatnot. He saves her. I believe he stops people from dying on the ferry, but the original version of him dies. And the version of him that went back in time is now alive.
Of course.
Because there's that weird, he goes back in time for sure, and now there's two of him.
Yeah.
And so it's like, the world has to correct itself, but was it intentional or was it just happenstance?
Interesting.
And so now, he went into, like, it's such a fun, like, okay, so there were two of them, now there's one of them, and it had to happen, but, like, did it? And, like, is this fate, or is this the universe correcting itself? Is he in a different timeline, or did he merge timelines and meet into another one? Like, it's really fun. It's just such a good movie. It's
cool.
really well
I
done.
definitely have to see that one. So this is this repurposed Spec script. It's called Solace. Ted Griffin pitches it. New Line's like
The title of a short film I made in high school.
there you go. New Line's like great. This is gonna be 8. The sequel would have focused on a psychic serial killer pursued by William Somerset. So Morgan Freeman he did not successfully retire.
Okay.
Who would have developed similar psychic abilities. So Morgan Freeman is now psychic chasing a psychic.
I'm so glad this didn't get made.
The idea was abandoned after Principal 7 cast and crew, including Morgan Freeman and Brad Pitt, expressed no intention to return. Fincher said...
I wonder why Brad Pitt didn't return. Maybe because he got shot in the head at the end of the first one.
No, he didn't. He shot Spacey
Oh,
in
that's
the
right,
head.
that's right.
Yeah.
For whatever reason, I thought he died too. All right,
No, they just put him in the back of the squad car.
Totally forgot about that. Yeah.
Fincher said, quote, "I would be less interested in that than I would in having cigarettes put out in my eyes." Dude, I love, before I finish this, I love Fincher's way with words. He talks about casting somebody, I believe it's the guy he casts as the FBI agent they bribe in 7, who I believe is also the dirty cop in Batman Begins. I think it's the same actor. But Fincher describes that the reason why he cast him for that role was because when he met him, he said that the guy looked like he slept in pizza.
You know what I just discovered, because we're going to bring this back to Devil Wears Prada? David Fincher is the Miranda Priestley of directors. White hair and all.
Yeah, exactly.
Hilarious.
So then the script was, after that happened, the script was like, all right. We're going to bring it back to being Solace. We're not going to make it 8. And the movie ended up being released in 2015, directed by Afonso Poyart, starring Anthony Hopkins, Colin Farrell, Jeffrey Dean Morgan. Its storyline follows a psychic doctor, played by Hopkins, who works with FBI Special Agent Joe Merriweather, Jeffrey Dean Morgan, in search of a serial killer. So it's a psychic, a very maligned psychic.
Is Hopkins the serial killer?
No, he's the psychic looking for the serial killer.
Got it, okay.
Colin Farrell is the killer.
Got it, okay. Now, see, that sounds like a fun movie, because you're not putting it in the world of 7.
Correct.
That sounds fun. I want to watch that.
Yes.
But taking 7 and then bringing supernatural elements into it?
Now what
I don't know about that.
I could have seen being interesting is, in the same way that John Doe appears to have some kind of like supernatural thing behind him, and he's like rooted in this like kind of like avenging devil kind of thing. He's completely mortal, but like there's that kind of thing around him that starts like spook them.
Yeah.
I could see it being fun to be chasing a killer who has the appearance of being psychic.
Yes. No,
like,
I agree with that.
He pulls off things that only a psychic could, in the same way that John Doe gets away with stuff that a real serial killer couldn't get away with.
Yeah.
But then you lost me when you said Morgan Freeman also gained psychic powers.
Yes. If you had him discover how he faked psychicness,
right,
that'd be cool.
That'd be really cool. No, my idea for 8 is that it's all contained in one place. It's all in this like overlook resort, shining type hotel and wherever, and it's this convention for like true crime enthusiasts. And so the main character is a true crime podcaster, and she's there, but weird stuff starts happening. They get snowed in, and within the hotel a series of copycat murders to the original 7 start to happen. And so she needs to like rely on like her having studied this case to try to figure out who the imitator is. And then I think I'd contemplated there being a point in which she like needs like she's stuck, so then she ends up like finding Brad Pitt, whose life has just gone to hell after the events of the first movie. But basically then the ending is to keep it on tonally consistent with the bleakness of 7. The 8th is she figures out who it is, but in the process gets herself killed, and she's 8.
Interesting.
Yeah.
All right, bringing this back to Prada,
Which
because we do need to do. So we talked about the plot. We talked about the We've Got the Money. We've mentioned the music briefly. Was there a particular song you liked the most? What did you think of Gaga and her?
Oh yeah,
cameo?
which song of hers did she play?
It was extremely thematic for the film.
Yeah.
I can't remember. I don't know the name of it, but it was a great choice for the film.
Yeah, I really liked it. It caught me totally off guard. You heard me go like, "What?" when she showed up. I think that was really cool. She's obviously a huge, despite being primarily a musician, a huge figure in fashion.
Yes.
Um,
I did also like, we heard, I don't remember all the tracks, but like the first one was Dua Lipa, huge fan of Dua Lipa, and then we had Miley right after her. I don't know many of the other ones because they didn't register as much, but I know obviously we had Gaga. Were there any that you recognized?
Yeah, no, Gaga was the one that stood out because I was just like, holy, like this is perfect for the movie to have her here.
Yeah.
And then have her performing was cool.
I also loved that like she hates Miranda. Like that.
Yeah,
that
was such a good detail.
Yeah.
What's interesting is that going back to something we kind of touched on earlier with they at the time were having to like stealthily research the fashion world because they needed to not piss off Anna Wintour. They described, I think it was the production designer Goncourt, I think that might have said this. I don't remember. I think it was her, but I just read this when I was looking up today that she described that the name Devil Wears Prada opened so many doors for them. They wanted to go get people like Gaga or get into this location or get this thing or whatever. They were able to be like, oh, well, we're doing the Devil Wears Prada sequel, and everyone in the fashion world just was like, I would love to help you with that.
Yeah.
Which was cool that even though Frankel said they're working the same amount of money, it's cool that people are like...
Well, they were probably able to pull a lot more favors
I'm
this time
sure,
around.
yeah, because... Gaga's not cheap.
I am very curious about the question you asked in the middle of the film, which is, I wonder if that's the same friend's apartment of the producer.
Yeah, it was.
It was?
Yeah, they
Love
got
that.
permission to go back.
That's great.
Which means Wendy Finerman is still on good terms with that friend whose apartment she was tiptoeing around.
I was going to say, I wonder if they were in bare feet and socks again this time
They
around.
may have been.
But yeah, that was really fun. The music was great. I also love the music cues, like the score cues. It was great to hear that score again. I did not realize how much I enjoyed the score until watching the second one, because it made me realize it was like, I really like the score from the first one, both in terms of in the film and even they reuse it in a lot of the bonus features. And it's good. It's a nice instrumental. It's solid.
Yeah.
I can't remember who did the composition for that.
Me neither.
But yeah, they deserve a shout out. Miranda Offer Game. I did like the fact that we did not go back to Paris. I like the fact that we went
it's
somewhere
Milan.
else.
That's good.
Yeah.
I mean, at first, I kind of like when they first dropped Milan, I was kind of like, all right, and Milan is the equivalent of Paris, because at that point I was still in the like understanding this as just being a retread.
Yeah.
But then with where they redirected it, I didn't feel like they were just doing Paris over again.
For the sake of on spec, what's the third city for the third film?
See, when I think of fashion, I think of Paris and Milan. I don't necessarily know of someone in the comments will know what the third like capital of. I mean, I guess you could go like London. I'm sure London has a big fashion scene.
Yeah.
You could. After I look at this composer, Theodore Shapiro.
Okay. Theodore, great job.
Fashion. Let's.
London's good. I mean, it would be funny to just stay in New York.
Yeah, but I do like
that could be part of it. Maybe, I don't know.
Okay, the big four: New York, London, Milan, Paris. So I think unless you do the curveball of we don't go anywhere in the third film, I think it has to be London.
So I think it should be planning for London.
Mm-hmm.
But for the sake, no, I don't. I was gonna say for the sake of her family, when she gets the role, Andy moves it to New York.
Okay.
Because like maybe a kid gets sick or something, and she has to do that. I don't know how much I love that.
What you could see is that the closeout to her and Nigel kind of like vying for the job, like and having a little bit of a rivalry for him is that she's like, no, I need to be with my family, and she basically turns London over to Nigel.
Yeah.
It's like, all right, you're still gonna be the right hand here. You can run our London show.
Oh yeah, maybe she gives Nigel global, and she
right,
takes,
yeah, and so it's like, all right, like I need to be in New York with my family.
Yeah.
And then Nigel gets his like, okay, I get to run the international stuff.
Yeah. So technically, Nigel runs all of Runway, but Andy gets Miranda's job,
right?
Or
yeah.
Miranda's
the editorial, job. Like the editorial is
she's the editor-in-chief.
Yeah,
of
she does the actual
Runway America,
right? And she kind of has like the actual like magazine, and then all of their like all of their content or all of their like stuff outside of just the publishing of the book itself.
Yeah, because they have the Runway Global with like Runway Paris and Runway London. It's just Miranda, at least in the first one, only did Runway New York/US.
Yeah.
Because remember the one that ran Runway like France
was
the one who was trying to vie for her position.
Yeah.
Yeah, could be interesting. Sorry, we're developing a treatment as we're doing this podcast. The last thing I have on my list that I wrote right before we did this is probably that of the most contentious part of the pre-release of the film, which was the Netflix lighting, which was something that on the main channel of Silver Retention was something I touched on back in like January or February. So what did you think of the Netflix lighting in the film?
I didn't hate the lighting. They definitely went for like more contrast and more of a like dramatic kind of image that I think was a good choice.
Mm-hmm.
The first one, the first one was we had this whole thing in the first episode where we talked about like the naturalistic lighting versus lighting to sort of emotive or evocative lighting, and the first one is very much the former, right? The first film is, just daylight, just straight up. They don't do a whole lot of fancy things with the lighting.
Yep.
They got a little bit sexier with this one, in a way that was good. Like I didn't look at it and look at like, it didn't look like Wicked or something or some of these.
No, well, so that's the thing is like,
terrible lighting.
With the arguments that people were making before the film was released, they were like, it looks flat, it looks horrible, it looks dull. There was a promotional shot in a trailer that wasn't actually in the film that had its own lighting scheme. The film's lighting is phenomenal.
Yeah.
Like, the movie looks gorgeous from first shot to last shot.
Yeah, I will say I did notice, like, there are very obvious green screen shots. Not that the first one doesn't have them. It does, for sure. But it just got to be like, all right, you've got $100 million budget. You can make this a little bit more textured and, or just build more real sets. They did build some. They could have just built more. But yeah, lighting-wise, composition of shots, the color palette, all just looks awesome.
Yeah, phenomenal.
I love they changed the way they were shooting The Office, because one, they had a bigger set for The Office than they did in the first one. And they, or like the office floor, not just Miranda's office. And they did these really cool shots where you're through the floor to ceiling glass and into other stuff, and you had reflections of the warm lighting fixtures on that. And so all of the interiors in the office look just gorgeous.
Yeah. I really enjoyed how they changed. The other thing I enjoyed about that is that the entire floor of Runway looks completely different now. But Miranda's office looks exactly the same.
Yeah.
Like, that's, again, just little details like that I really enjoyed.
Yeah, that was really cool.
Any final thoughts?
Yeah, I mean, that whole thing is just like an example of why these pre-release controversies are so silly. We have yet, as I mentioned, we have yet to see the Odyssey due to some technical difficulties. I was hoping to be able to talk today about, to follow up from our first episode on Lupita Nyong'o and some of the other stuff that people are complaining about without having seen the film. There was one on Twitter I saw where a guy was like calling out a specific thing in the movie. Like, he's like, there's a scene where Lupita Nyong'o does this, and it was just unbelievably bad. And then the first comment was, "Did you see it?" And he's like, "No, never will." It was like, is this a real scene? Did you make this up?
This is why I don't go on Twitter ever.
I probably should take a page.
This is the thing, is like, I don't believe anything on Twitter. I don't believe anyone actually believes anything they say on Twitter.
You're probably right.
Even if they do, I don't believe that you really, if you were having a conversation with me in person, that you would say these things.
Right. Could you imagine if you are just out hanging out, like the guy we were talking to at Gap about Oppenheimer, right? Could you imagine if we're like out at a bar talking about movies with somebody, and they're like, Nolan's casting black actors to desecrate the core stories of Western civilization.
I would say, like, yo, can I see your swastika?
Like, I was like, could you imagine saying that to someone in real life with a straight face?
No, the only way that you would genuinely be capable of doing that is if, like, you partake in certain activities on the weekend that should probably get you shot.
Yeah.
Like
it just, like, and, like, even if I believed that, it would be so hard for me to say that to a stranger and not, like, worry that someone's gonna punch me in the face.
Yeah, no, you got to be pretty deep in hatred to be able to do that.
Right, and so, but it's because it's the internet and people think it's fake. I mean, it kind of is fake, but because people imagine that there are no consequences, they can put whatever out there and it never comes back to them.
Yep.
You know, they'll say just heinous things that you never would. It's just, I don't know. I see the movie. Like, you don't have to like the Odyssey. I don't know if I'll like the Odyssey. I probably will, but you don't have to like it. You don't have to think Lupita Nyong'o was right for that role. See the movie before you shit on it.
And if you haven't watched Devil Wears Prada yet, Devil Wears Prada 2, I recommend. I bought it on Amazon because I want to support the industry. I didn't get a chance to see it in theaters, but at least to my understanding, the price on Amazon is essentially equivalent,
basically,
of what they would get from a ticket. So it's a good alternative. It's a good alternative if you don't have the time to go to a theater, or if you don't necessarily have the flexibility to go to a theater.
Yeah.
But if you still want to support the film industry and hopefully maybe see Devil Wears Prada 2 executive produced by Redacted Media because they came up with the treatment for it, you know, that's one way to make sure that happens. Or, you know, not have our names even remotely related to it because it never gets made.
And then we'll be like shaking our fist every time we see promotions for it, like they took our idea and they didn't care for it. This was our movie. This was our...
That's my whole point of On Spec, is because as long as it's put on YouTube before they announce it, if it's the same story, I can be like, "You're welcome, David.
Where's my settlement?"
Yeah, no, I wouldn't even be. I'd be like, you know what? That's good. There's a reason I put it on YouTube, is because I didn't expect credit.
Fair enough.
It's nice if I get it.
Yeah.
But it's the idea with On Spec is these are not movies I ever think I will be able to make.
Right.
But if someone steals it and makes it,
I'll be happy.
I'm happy.
I saw it. Yeah.
I'm happy.
Yeah. Well, I learned my lesson to not leave a specific stinger for the next episode because we have no idea what we have and haven't released by this point.
Yeah, we've changed which ones we were going to record like 6 times.
The order of the first 5 episodes of this channel has changed daily for a week.
Yes.
So next time on Silver Attention Podcast, we will cover a movie or some movies. Hope you'll join us.
Might just be deja vu every time.